He spat out the greenish liquid. It remembered him of crushed caterpillars. Smoke began to issue forth from the twisted straw in his hand. He was preparing to climb over the intervening fence when he saw Andres coming down the path from the direction of Ellie's house. The man appeared excited. He gestured with his arm to Pablo to wait for him. Pablo drew back the leg he had over the fence, the smoke sheaf of straw in his hand. He went slowly to meet Andres. Oshang was still pounding in her little stone mortar. The sharp thudding of the stone pestle against the mortar seems to Pablo unnaturally loud. Andres had stopped beneath the clump of bamboo, some distance from his hut. He stood beside his carabao, a much younger man than Pablo, dark, broad, squat. He wore a printed camisa de chino, threadbare at the neck and shoulders. The sleeves cut short above the elbows so that his arms hung out. Thick muscled, awkward. Are you coming with us? He asked, his voice grating in throat, striving to stay quiet. His eyes were fierce and desperate. Don't be fooled, Andres, Pablo said, coughing to clear his throat, trying to appear calm. Andres, breathe harder. He glared at the old man, but Pablo was looking down at the smoke straw in his hand. He could feel the heat steadily increasing, and he shifted his hold farther from the burning end. Andres turned to his carabao with a curse. Pablo took a step forward until he stood close to the younger man. What can you do, Andres? He said. You say you will stop the trucks bearing the rice to the city. That will be robbery. 5 cabans, paid back double, is robbery too. Only the robbers do not go to jail. Perhaps there will be killing. We will take that chance. You will be sent to be livid. What will become of the wife and the children behind? Who will feed them? They are starving right now under our very eyes. But you are here with them. That is worse. The smoke from the burning rice straw got into Pablo's mouth, and he was shaken by a fit of coffee. What do you hope to gain by stealing a truckload of rice?
Food, Pablo said tearfully. Is that all? Food for our wives and children. Food for everybody. That is enough. What will happen if the stolen rice is gone? Will you go on robbery? It is not stealing. The rice is ours. The straw in his hand burst into sudden flame. He threw it away. It fell in the path, the fire dying out as the straw scattered and burning coals rolled in all directions. I must get some rice straws, Pablo said in his thin, wheezy voice. Ocean, your wife is waiting for you. As he turned to leave, Andres whispered hoarsely to him, before the moon rises tonight, the first truck will pass around the bend by the bridge. Pablo did not look back. He had seen his wife and 3 children approaching the hut from the fields. They were accompanied by a man. He hurried to meet them. A moment later, the loud voice of Oshang burst out of the hut of Andres. But Pablo had no ear for other things just then. The man with his wife was the field watchman. They were fishing in the fields. The watchman said stolidly. He was a thick-set, dull-faced fellow clad in a khaki shirt and khaki trousers. You will pay a fine of 5 cabans. We were only gathering snails, Sebia protested, sobbing. She was wet. Her skirt clung to her thin legs, dripping water and slow trickle of mud. 5 cabans, the watchman said. I came to tell you so that you will know. Speaking to Pablo. He turned and strode away. Pablo watched the broad khaki-covered back of the watchman. I suppose he has to earn his rice too, he said in his wheezy voice, feeling an immense weariness and hopelessness set upon him. He looked at his wife, weeping noisily, and the children streaked with dark blue mud. The 2 older boys thin like sticks, and the youngest a girl of 6. 5 cabans of rice for a handful of snails? How much is 5 cabans to 5 hungry people? Itay, I'm hungry, Sabel the girl said. The 2 boys looked up him mutely. They were cold and shivering, and full of the knowledge of what had happened. I was going to get fire from ocean. Pablo heard him say, You have not cooked the rice? Sebia asked, moving wearily to the ladder. There is no rice. Sebia listened in silence while he told her why there was no rice. Then what were you going to cook with the fire? She asked finally. I don't know, he was forced to say. I thought I'll wait for you and the children. Where shall we ever get the rice to pay the multa? Sebia asked irrelevantly. At their feet, the children began to whimper. Itay, I'm hungry, Sabel repeated. Pablo took her up in his arms. He carried her to the caravan and placed her on its broad, warm back. The children stopped whimpering and began to kick with their legs. The carabao switched its tail and struck with its mud-encrusted tip across her face. She covered her eyes with both hands and burst out crying. Pablo put her down, tried to pry away her hands from her eyes, but she refused to uncover them and cried as though in great pain. Sebia! Pablo called, and his wife hurried. He picked up a stout piece of wood lying nearby and began to beat the caravan. He gripped the piece of wood with both hands and struck the dung beast with all his strength. His breath becoming gasp. The carabao wheeled around the tamarind tree until its rope was wound around the trunk, and the animal could not make another turn. It stood there, snorting with pain and fear, as the blows of Pablo rained down its back. The piece of wood at last broke, and Pablo was left with a short stub in his hand. He gazed at it, sobbing with rage and weakness. Then he ran to the hut, crying, Give me my bolo. Sebia, give me my bolo. We shall have food tonight. But Sebia held him and would not let him go until he quieted down and sat with back against the wall of the hut. Sabel had stopped crying. The two boys sat by the cold stove.
God save me, Pablo said brokenly. He brought up his knees and, dropping his face between them, wept like a child. Sebia lay down with Sabel and watched Pablo. She followed his movements wordlessly as he got up and took his bolo from the wall and belted it around his waist. She did not rise to stop him. She lay there on the floor and watched her husband put on his hat and go down the low ladder. She listened and learned he had not gone near the carabao. Outside, the darkness had thickened. Pablo picked his way through the tall grass in the yard. He stopped to look back at the house. In the twilight, the hut did not seem to lean so much. He tightened the belt of the heavy bolo around his waist, pulling the old buri hat firmly over his head. He joined Andres, who stood waiting by the broken down fence. In silence, they walked together to the house of Ellis. And that is the end of the story Rise by Manuel Arguellia.